Good morning and welcome to IIJNM Storyboarding Journalism Webinar Series 2021. I'm Sangeeta. I'm the Assistant Professor of English at IIJNM. Today's webinar is on cultivating an investigative mindset. It's being conducted by Abhishek Angad. Abhishek is an IIJNM alumnus and senior correspondent at the Indian Express. He's currently based out of Jharkhand and covers the entire state from politics to developmental issues, voices from the rural heartland to health and the criminal justice system. He started his career reporting on crime in Delhi, subsequently shifting to reporting in court. He worked on the famous 2G scam judgment, covering various trials at the NIA and POCSO courts. He moved to Jharkhand in February 2019, where he uncovered a minority scholarship scam quite recently. In this session, Abhishek will talk about how an investigative mindset can transform even the most routine stories to front page news. So before I switch over to the speaker for today, I want to just brief you on how the format of the webinar is. The speaker will speak for 40 minutes. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat box. We will be answering questions in the last 20 minutes of the session. Thank you. Over to you, Abhishek.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone. And it's a real pleasure. And thank you, IIJNM, for giving me an opportunity to speak to the people around here. And so since we have already moved online, so we now know how many people are there who I can see one of my friends also in the participant list. So yeah, that's fine. So today we are going to speak about investigative mind. Forget investigative mind, about how as a journalist what everyone should be looking at. So when you join any newspaper, you are given a beat. You cover a beat crime, health, courts, infrastructure, government, parties. Across beats, when you you start doing your routine rural stories, and from there you start building sources, and you get to know and you understand how this things works, and then you take a leap, you make a jump and do some great stories from there. So to start with, I started my career in Delhi in 2000 as a crime reporter. So I used to go to there used to be a murder or a rape or any other crime incident that used to happen. So I used to go to the spot where the incident had already occurred, and there I used to make notes and write stories. So in this process, once what happened was the Delhi police had actually reunited a child. She was missing since last 8 years, and so I thought, and this was a press release issued by the Delhi police, like kind of a good work. So I asked the contacts from them, and I went to their homes, the child's home, and had an interview with her, and I wanted to, and that was a great pay-one story. But in the due course, what I realized was I need to gather some extra information from the entire family and the entire process that has how the reunion took place. So what I did was I asked where did she stay in the entire last 8 years. She stayed in Kanpur, and in order to again, so this is the point I'm trying to make about. So ideally one should go and speak to her, and that's how you get the story. So but you need to also look a step ahead, and that's one of the things that we also learned at IIJNM, right? So what now? So what? You the Kanchan used to say always, so what? So there was a good heartrending story of a reunion, but then there also a bigger picture than that has come to play. So what? So what as in what next? So what I did was so there are this under Juvenile Justice Act, there is a provision for there's a body called a quasi-judicial body called Child Welfare Committees, who are supposed to look after all child that is in need of care and protection. This is different from juvenile in conflict with law, who commit crimes and they are then put into juvenile justice board and homes. So these are the people. Let's say there's a missing children. So it is the CWC's responsibility to look after missing children. So in that case, there was this girl called Aarti, and she was the missing children. So I asked who took care. Then she pointed me towards one Girish Avasthi of Child Welfare Committee in Kanpur. So when I came back to office and when I filed that story, so I called Girish and said, "Ki look, ऐसे से आपने किया है, just tell me कि how difficult what is to make them make this reunion, what all things that you had to go through, and did you was it easy?" He said he shared his everything, and then I got a nice real response from him, which actually gave a little more weight to the story. And I just called him twice, thrice, 4 times just to clarify myself and see if I was missing any pieces there. After the last call, when I just filed my story and about to leave office, he called me and he told me, "Abhishek, ये तो ठीक है, ये बच्चे तो मिल गए हैं, ये बच्ची तो मिल गई है, एक ना 2 बच्चे हैं हमारे यहाँ, there are 2 kids, there are 2 kids in Kanpur, and we have been trying real hard to reunite them with their family members." I said, "Okay." So he said, "These are the contact details, and what I'll do is I'll share it to you. I'll share a picture of both the kids to you. And there's an online portal called Zonal Integrated Police Network, where there are 8 states which are part of this, and then what they do is basically they try and put forward all the information so that every state can have a look at it and give some information one hand or other to other states." So what happened was he gave me certain details, and I was a different story I was working. Now again, that's not part of my story or thing what the investigative agencies or any other NGOs were supposed to do. That's not my job. But again, in journalism, you're always been taught that you're also a human being. Okay, so I just gave it a shot. I just went to Zonal Integrated Police Network, and of course, there's a lot of factors that come into play. You're getting pushed by an editor who says, "No harm in just seeing or finding it out if you can find something what the information that Mr. Girish Avasthi had given." So it took me 3 hours to go to the website and check and to filter down a address of their parents in Delhi, and that was Wazirpur industrial area. That's all I knew from the ZipNet. And I had a photo. I had Girish Avasthi telling me, "Look, there are 2 kids. We are not able to find. We have told the police." It's not my job, but then again, I was curious, and of course, I wanted to see what happened. So this was my off day, and I was just sleeping, and this idea popped in my mind, ki, let's not waste it. So I went to Wazirpur industrial area and went into looking for the parents' name, saying that कि उनकी बच्ची जो है वो बहुत दिन से missing हो गई थी. So आप जानते हैं क्या? So I just had to. It was like 25 or 20 minutes into that bylines of those. It was an urban slum. So to just go, and I stumbled upon them when they saw the daughter's picture. They started crying in front of me. I was like, wow. So I just called my editor and said, "Look, this has happened. I just want to follow them from Delhi to Kanpur, and we will do a story on that." My editors agreed, and what resulted was in, you have been also taught that reporters are not the story. So I always wanted to keep me in the background, but I'm just saying that when you're curious, when you have an investigative mindset, you can also be the change that some people also join journalism to bring some change in the society. So you can also be the change which we are looking at. So what I did was, what I'm proud of, that I actually reunited a broken a family, and I captured that. So it resulted in a lot of things. It resulted in what did it show? So what are the loopholes in our system where it just took a journalist and a curious mind to reunite a family for in like less than 3 hours. What it showed that there was a great loophole in our system. There's lack of coordination. Now, NCRB records also say that 1 lakh children go missing every year. It's like, so one children getting reunited to the family, it's a big deal. So as a journalist, as a citizen, that can also be, and this is all result of what you learn and how strong your fundamentals are. And if you don't want, and if you cannot go an extra mile, if you don't want to go an extra mile, these are the pleasures, small pleasures that you'll get in your work. The journalists are not greatly paid. All the journalists are proud of are the good stories that they do, and be it against the government or against the dilapidated system or the change that they bring in the system. So I just like to show you one. So how did it actually happen? So this was the story that came. It is a central spread of our Indian Express, where you can see these are the pictures here, and these are the kids. So yeah, so this is one thing that I'm very proud of, and this is all as a result of you take one extra mile, you take one extra step ahead, and then you connect the dots. Then you take again one step ahead, and then you connect the thread and move forward. Maybe there's a great story ahead. Now, so after covering crime, I moved on to covering courts. So I think one of the biggest and one of the best beats and one of the most challenging beat is to cover courts, because you cannot go wrong in covering courts. You have to cover the trial, you have to cover what is happening inside court, you have to cover what is happening outside courts. And the best way to do it to cover the trial courts in India. When you go to any district court, have you seen how many files, how many people that makes a beeline to all the courts? You go to any metropolitan magistrate court and you see that a person who has been accused of theft and whose entire family is waiting outside, and just to have a glimpse of him who's been brought from the jail. And it depends on what the court says, what the court perceives to be. So the court is one of the one of the fundamentals and of the criminal justice system as a whole. So courts actually tell you how a court is basically a melting pot of all kind of a courtroom or outside courtroom. You could see there's a melting pot of every kind of people, whether rich or poor, gathered there in who were accused of something and who wants justice in something. So it was very interesting for me to cover courts, because courts also give you a glimpse in what are the various angles that one could explore, right? So as a journalist, what do? As a journalist, there are 5 Ws and 1 H, that is there. But when you cover courts, there are like several 5 Ws and several H's. Okay, so the court, let's say there will be a judgment, and what does the court do is you will see that a judge on the same, there's a theft and there's a judge, there's another theft and there's another judge, and both have applied their mind, both have a set of laws, rules with them, and both interprets the same kind of theft differently. So this is very interesting how you see a similar crime, one getting convicted and one getting acquitted based on what the judge feels and perceives. So this is one of the very interesting things to cover. So here I would like to talk about one story where there's this 2009, there's a very infamous rape that had happened in Noida. There's this 24-year-old woman, MBA, and then her friend was there, and then there's this cricket playing team was coming from suburbs of Noida, and then they got hold of him, and she alleged that around 12 or 13 people raped her. And this was a big story there, and everybody covered in 2009. So what happened in 2017 and in 18? Very interesting. In 2017, there's this. What happens is this, since it's in Uttar Pradesh, then the complainant files an application saying that, look, we cannot. There's this threat to my family, so please move the trial to another district. So or another place. So the Supreme Court decided that the trial will go in Delhi. So the trial was in Delhi. So there were a lot of evidences, right? So when there's a crime, the police files a charge sheet, the court takes cognizance of the charge sheet, and then the trial goes on. And there's a difference between that the rape has been alleged and happened, and the investigating agencies to prove that the rape happened or not. So what happened? So there were 13 accused in it. One was juvenile in conflict with law, meaning that point of time one was under 18. So in the due course, one died. So there were 11 left. So in 2017, Session Court said there was basically botched up investigation. It doesn't seem like the investigative agencies have been able to prove the crime. And there are various inconsistencies in charge sheet and the statements what they have made, and acquitted all accused. We reported it. 2018, the next year, what happens is this Juvenile Justice Board, they also have to go through one, and it's not a conviction or acquittal per se, but they say the person who has been put in home under Juvenile Justice Board is able to did he commit the crime or not, and then if he committed the crime, then he is not punished per se like the actual people in criminal justice system. But what happens is he goes through a reformation process for 3 years. Now interestingly, everything that the trial court had said on every instances, let's say medical evidences, let's say on technical evidences, everything, there's ekdam opposite. There's this opposite judgment that the Juvenile Justice Board delivered. The additional sessions judge, that the trial court said that it was a false case of implication, and the police had made it impossible that the case be finally concluded in conviction. Now, what did the Juvenile Justice Board say when the judge said and the board said that there's one person who's the same crime? That judge is saying, look, the victim did not engineer the defects. She can't be faulted for the loopholes in the investigation. Now, then it became very interesting. So, as a journalist, what do? You report what the Juvenile Justice Board said, fine, if there was this conviction. But then to give, I'm again coming back to the same point as you need to be curious. You need to always be thinking, what next? How do I tell a story which everyone has reported? How do I do a better storytelling than everyone? So what did I do? We used to have a section called Hard Look in Indian Express Delhi, where we used to look at big stories, and we used to get a full page of display. So what I did was, I took on the 5 or 6 key facts, as in the key heads, as in the medical evidence, as in the technical evidence, as in the statements of the accused, and I just juxtapose, I just put one judge's observation and the other judge's observation below it. So you need to understand it's not lower court, high court, and the highest court where there is bound to be some inconsistencies. We're talking about lower courts only. We're talking about the trial court and this juvenile justice board. Both are on the same pedestal in terms of hierarchy. So this is very interesting to understand how the entire case, there are two judges and they both view it differently. As a journalist and as a more impact sense, and which actually forces a reader to think. So my job is also to to set a discourse. My job is also to tell people that look, look, these are the things. These are the policy. My job is also to point a direction to policymakers. Look, you need to have a proper investigative agency. You need to have a proper methods to collect those evidences, because if judges have found two different, and if two judges are inconsistent in their observations and judgments about a rape case, so we are doing a great disservice to the society if we are not able to gather those evidences correctly, if the police is not able to gather those evidences correctly. So here you are also initiating a discussion, of course, but then again, coming back to the original theme of this webinar, is how to develop this curious investigative mind. So here also you need to be convinced and tell your editor, look boss, this is how the storytelling will work. We just put one observation beside another observation and let the readers decide what do they think of it. Let another high court judge decide whether the trial court judge was right or lower court judge or the juvenile justice board was wrong or right. But then it's always good to be curious, investigative, in a sense here that we did not have a copy of judgment. There was a press release that was by a team of lawyers saying that juvenile justice board had given this person guilty, this juvenile guilty. So you need to go a step further. You need to go and ask, can you show me the judgment? Can you show me the judgment? It will take a great deal of time. So once you read the entire judgment of trial court, then you read the entire judgment of the juvenile justice board. It may run into several hundred pages, and then you need to make sense of everything. You need to note it down from the trial court, the important points, or mark it down. Then you mark it down from the, and then you see if there's a trend in both the things. If there's a trend that, okay, look, these are the things, these are the subheads where the trial court said this and juvenile justice board said this, and then this conflict emerging from within the two. So these are the mindset I'm talking about when you do your stories. These are storytelling techniques, and you need to constantly think about how differently you are able to tell a story, because everything is happening and it's the same thing is happening all over India. So this is as a result of what one always look at and what one always should look into. So I'll just run through this how this entire thing got covered. So I just want to tell you this thing. So there's very interesting. So you can see here the headline was 2019 gang rape, 1 rape and 2 verdicts. Okay. So there was a very interesting illustration here. If you can see this, this very interesting illustration out here. You see, the illustration also tells you a great story. There's a fingerprint. There's a woman inside that who is screaming, and both the judges see it with a different lens. And this is how we did a story. There's a single page story, and we did it. So this is all a sum total of a lot of things: how you push yourself, how much you read, how much you apply your cognitive abilities, whatever aptitude every person possesses. So last thing that I want to talk about is recently. So then from there I moved to Jharkhand. Having covered crime, having covered courts, I moved to Jharkhand to cover the state. So in Jharkhand, I started covering. Of course, this is this state is a backward state, and it generally depends on center for a lot of grants and aids. And the people, the tribal population out here is still they still don't have money and means to have two meals a day, and the state government and everybody needs to do a lot of things to make them. So that's the reason that I came here, because I knew there are a lot of things that needs to be done at this point. So I started working and started covering so-called hunger deaths or malnutrition deaths, and what the government is doing. There was a change in power in 2019 from the BJP government. It came to the regional Congress Alliance, General Congress Alliance government. So I'm just looking into it and just seeing how the courts are functioning here, how the same body in Delhi, that is Child Welfare Committee, and the courts, the trial courts in Delhi, and there are trial courts in other district courts like in Ranchi or here, and you'll see a stark difference, the kind of professionalism that is there, and that is everything. So while covering this everything, I got a lead. That it was around in 2020. I got a lead in 2020 October first week. Yeah, first. I got a lead that, boss, what is happening is there is some scholarship ghapla that is happening everywhere, and this scholarship jhol that is happening in Jharkhand, because we know certain students who couldn't who got half of the amount that was intended to given to them. So I realized that okay, let me look into it. So I went and I started looking at it and seeing ki how. So they are saying ki हाँ भैया पैसा तो मिल रहा है, आधा मिल रहा है. So then I understood that it is a centrally funded minority scholarship where Muslim, Sikhs, Buddhists, and all the religious minority communities, they'll get these are for the students of 1 to 10. That is, from 1 to 5, the student will get rupees 1,000 a year, and from 5 to 10, the students will get rupees 6,000 a year. Yes, 6,000 a year, and if they are 5,000 a year, and if they are hostelers in any school, they'll get 10,000 rupees a year. The amount, the quantum of money per student is very low. But what happens is that when there is a cluster, or when there is a group of fraudsters in every block, in every districts of everywhere, then it becomes a crores worth of scam. So they just initially told me, boss, we are not getting. So again, how do I prove it? How do I prove it on paper so that there is no loophole? So what will I look into? So I just sat down one day and I thought, how do I prove it? So there's this portal, National Scholarship Portal, where you actually see the list of beneficiaries that's been who have been given money to by the central government. Fine. So what we did was we started with Ranchi. So against each school there were X number of beneficiaries, and then there was this application ID. So we made a list. I made a list of all Ranchi based schools and the list of application IDs. That's where that we put beside that. So now we had to check who got that money and from where, and that had to be all on record, because tomorrow somebody can say हमको पैसा मिला, but if I can't prove that there is this इनको पैसा मिला, तो how will I prove? And anyone in authority can say tomorrow that look, there was no money. Where, what money? कोई पैसा नहीं हुआ. So I had to follow a trail, and that was, there is something called public finance management system. So whenever there is a direct benefit transfer, when the direct benefit transfer was brought into to basically to leak those, to stop these leakages, and the same thing is happening with direct benefit transfer right now. So when you put those application IDs in that direct benefit transfer platform, you will get the beneficiary's name and the last 4 digits account number and the money that was credited to his account. So let's say X and X got 10,000 rupees this particular period. So 10,000, what 10,000 would mean was eventually that he was a hosteler, right? Because 10,000 was for hosteler. So what we did initially was we made notes of, so I used to put all application IDs and find out the last 4 digits of the bank account numbers and the name and the money that was credited to his account. So I managed to get a list of all those beneficiaries who had got 10,000 rupees. But we still don't know, how do I track them? We have this list, but we don't know who is. Let's say there's this Sangeeta Alwar here in this, but there will be 10,000 Sangeeta Alwar all over India. How do I find them? But then here's also the source building, right? Matlab, I used to I had a lot of banking contacts and I had built a lot of sources there. So I, using those last 4 digits, I somehow managed to get the addresses of those beneficiaries or the localities of those beneficiaries. So we went to Ranchi in some village and saying, okay, just to check, it was a random guess. It may or may not have been resulted in some sort of a scam coming forward. It may be, it quite would have been possible that everything was well, but you need to give it a shot. There will be several tries. There will be several times that you will try so that you will not, so that you stumble upon a great story or great scam or the big issue. So I went there. When I went there, I found out who are these beneficiaries. These are farmers. These were this 25-year-old farmer who got this money. There is this 60-year-old woman who had gotten this money. There is this 45-year-old couple who has gotten this money. Then once I went there, found out ki kaun hai wo log, and this entire process was just not about how I got the address. It was also about going to a locality and door to door asking if were you beneficiaries of these kind of scholarship scam, or scholarship, or the beneficiary of some sort of money that was given out by the government or something like that. So it was a big exercise of panning out for 30-35 days, where I used to go to every village and trying to sort of get. So at the end of it, again, I'm coming back to the original theme of this this webinar. How to be curious and how to develop an investigative mindset. It's nothing. It's no rocket science. All you need to do is just follow your instinct and just see आगे क्या करना है. How do I prove it? What is next? So once I got those scams, so I did not stop there. What would be the next question? So the next question was, कि boss, how did you get this? Matlab, I had a hunch that these people don't even know that they're part of this entire fraud. So it asked them. So there was this tailor who I asked them, ki, आपको 10,000 रुपया है, कैसे मिला आपको, मतलब क्या हुआ? So there's a very strange response that came. These people said that पता नहीं भैया, we were told कि सऊदी से पैसा आ रहा है, तो बोला कि 5,000 रुपये आपको मिलेगा, 10,000 मिलेगा, 5,000 मेरा, 5,000 आपका. Now these middlemen used to say this. So this is very interesting. So I said कि okay, so that's how. So there's this entire operation being run by schools, middlemen. So there are these banking correspondents who in the rural area, because the ATMs or the bank can't go there, so the banking correspondents go with electronic point of sale machine where you put your thumb impression and you can withdraw money. They give you money from your bank account. So now this is the second part of the investigation. So when I realized this this Saudi se paisa aa raha hai wala cheez, then I realized that it's not the beneficiaries, the intended beneficiary of the students, they're not getting money. So now the current beneficiaries are poor people, at least on paper. But the main beneficiary is the middlemen, the school owners, the people who withdraw money through the electronic point of sale machines. So the next part of investigation entailed again finding those name of those schools from the list and going them one by one. So I went again to some of the schools and saying ki boss, so let's say there are this XYZ school in this rural area. There was this Lord Krishna public school in one block of Ranchi. So again, the part of my scam was over. I could have done that story and कि भैया देखो स्कैम है, ये intended beneficiaries है नहीं मिल रहा है. But you need to show the entire nexus, how it is operating, right? The second part of investigation, so this took 1 month. Then the next 1 month, what I did was I just went to school by school. So I went to one school, and in the list, the beneficiaries, there were 328 beneficiaries. Out of that, 310 were beneficiaries who stayed in the hostel and received 10,000 rupees annually. Fine. When I went to the school, I found a two-room classroom, and there was nothing. I mean, there were like hardly 30 or 40 students who people said were studying here. So now, from the fact that there were beneficiaries who were receiving money were not intended to, then there are these schools, how these schools used to fake their student list and submit it to someone. Now there's a third part of the investigation where we used to tell ki was it possible? Again, coming back to the original theme of this, ki as a curious mind, what would you do? You'd see that there's a pattern, right? One led to another. Now the school led me to the entire system. How the school is able to fake everything. Then I again started our investigation, and I found out that there's a system in place to verify all the applications. There's a school nodal officer, there's a district nodal officer, then there's a state nodal officer, then there is at the ministry level of the minorities ministry level. So then I found out that anyone, matlab literally until we did the story, until before that, you could have a paper and a letter pad of that school printed in your printer, and had gone to a district nodal officer saying, look boss, we have 328 students, please give me the ID and password because that is required to actually fill those forms. So basically it was so simple that one could actually print it a letter pad, and without the knowing of the owner of the schools or anyone, one could go to the district nodal officer, and district nodal officer, without even verifying if this can occur at this level. Some of the district nodal officers were also engaged, were also part of the scam, but this entire thing had come forward. So the system was very easily could be very easily breached, and it was breached. So there was this system who was supposed to take care of these leakages, and the entire, just to give you a glimpse of entire scam. So this is 1400 crores that was disbursed by Ministry of Minority Affairs to the entire India. Jharkhand received 61 crores only. So I'm saying this happened in entire India. And when I did the story, so this is the entire nexus which came. So I also did a story on the middlemen. So how did the middlemen used to do? So they used to keep a notebook, they used to keep a track of each and every student. So from that student, the middleman used to go to the various villages and I used to commit the fraud. So that's the story. But what I'm trying to say is that there's this entire nexus. When you do the first step, it will automatically lead you to second step. You just have to keep your minds at the right place. You just have to keep asking questions. What next? So what? So what? So what? When you do all these like 10,000 so whats, yeah, what continues to do to us at IIJNM. So you 10,000 so whats will result to a big scam, big minority scholarship scam that will come into. This also showed how vulnerable was Aadhaar system. See, boss, I'm not going to merits and demerits of whether we require Aadhaar or not. I'm just here to point out. I'm just pointing out it was vulnerable. It was very easy to edit Aadhaar and get benefits. So I had gotten one school, on behalf of one school, a cheater submitted. So let's say the school's owner's name is Rahul Verma. So one person made an Aadhaar card, edited an Aadhaar card of Rahul Verma, and got or had somebody else's Aadhaar number and edited it, showing that on particular address. When I went to that address, there people told yahan to koi rehta hi nahi hai is tarah ka. And that Aadhaar card was taken as an infallible document with by the school without even rechecking. So what did the scam do? Scam shaked up the system on multiple instances, multiple accounts. One was, you are talking about minority. You're supposed to uplift their education status by giving those scholarships. But if that is not reaching, then what's the point of giving those scholarships, and why not improve the system? B, the banking correspondents. So there's a group of banking correspondents who lure these people, who lure the school owners to come together and do the scam. Where what did we ask? They asked the kids in this rural area, and though they don't know anything about what happens when you give a finger, when a thumb impression. So they are just told कि भैया आके thumb impression दे दीजिए, आपका ना कुछ हो रहा है. So these are rural kids. They have no clue about what is happening. They don't know about their rights, and they don't know what people are doing. They just put a thumb impression like this. Now this middleman and this banking correspondent takes everyone's fingerprints, opens their bank account with a different mobile number, and get all scholarship money in that particular bank account without the children knowing it. So it showed the problems of our system, the very system that was supposed to protect the rights of these people, of those people who are vulnerable, but the entire system was actually cheating them, right from the banking correspondents, right from the school owners who were part of this scam, right from the nodal officers who were part of this scam, right from the state nodal officers part of this scam, and the vulnerabilities it showed around Aadhaar. So what it means that Aadhaar is not an infallible document. I mean, anyone can edit it. So the government needs to do more so that it cannot be edited, or the government needs to put more checks and balances so that it's not being edited at this level to give this as part of this face of the scam. So I just like to share you how it came across in the newspaper. Yeah. and then I will be open up because I have just spoken a lot, and then I'll open it up for question and answers if you guys have any question and answer. So hi, so this is how it. So the very excellent headline that was given by Chief Editor Rajkumar Jha is a direct benefit transfer is direct siphoning of school scholarship. So that's how it came. And so this is the Lord Krishna Public School that I'm talking about. You can see here. I don't know if you can see here or not, but this is this school, and this taught 328 children. So from these three stories, I just wanted to tell you it is possible. I could have just spoken it without. I could have just spoken about this, but I just wanted to show how your right thinking, right mind, one can just convert a very routine thing to a great story which can actually change systems, or it can be actually a great story. You don't really need to always work on, I need to change the system. That's why I'm in journalism. Journalism also meant to, to set the debate discourse right, and it's also important for democracy to just keep the facts right. So you will do a great service to your profession and to this country if just keep asking these questions to yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. We have a couple of questions in the chat box. One of the questions is from our previous alumni.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it out for you?
Yeah, please.
So Avanish is asking, how does the investigation process change when you're working on a business investigative piece?
Yeah, so in India, I think after the Harshad Mehta scam or likes of it, I don't think we are taking on, none of the business papers are taking on the businesses in India. So it's very different. How do you do business investigative piece? But if you're talking about the money or the fraud, or if you're following the money trail, if you're following the fraud, or let's say if there are a set of companies who are shell companies, so it's very different in that manner. So like we did Panama investigative stories that our newspaper had done with globally with the series of journalists. So there it's very different. There it's the face. Ultimately the face are people, but there it's also about linking those documents or those companies to a particular person. So it's more of following a money trail or the company trail, and it's more, I'll not say clerical, it's more of you sitting and you're just trying to, it's hidden in the plain sight, right? So it's hidden in the plain sight and you're just trying to find out is it, are you trying to find the connection? So in the business investigative pieces, in true sense, we are not in India. I don't think so. We are doing great deal of business investigative pieces, but whatever we are doing, it's more from finding the company trail, having a sound knowledge of all the how accounting system works and how companies function, so that you can go and find the list of the companies from Ministry of Corporate Affairs. You should know how if there is this paisa going to that money, so how the entire what is the what's the start of it, to you should know actually a lot of laws and a lot of accounting details. Yeah, so that's how it's different than the investigative pieces where the policy or the people are involved. Here also people are involved, but here they hide behind the loopholes in the law. Here also people are hiding behind the loopholes in the law, but there's a policy, and people are not getting money. There are a lot of beneficiaries. So somehow or the other, there's always a chance that you will be able to get information somehow. But when you do hardcore business investigation and you are targeting one company or one person, then it becomes a little difficult, because you also face the chance of being filed a defamation clause or defamation suit against you, or then you will of course be, if he or she is an MP or MLA, then there will be a breach committee or the privilege. You will be called for a meeting in the front of privilege committee, and then a lot of things happen. So that's the basic difference around is between business investigative piece.
Thank you, Abhishek. I'll read out the next question. It's from Rishabh.
Yeah.
The faster one reaches the scene that needs to be covered, that's the better, right? How does one establish contacts and sources to get information on time?
Yeah, so getting information on time is important, and that you will develop over a period of time. I mean, it's not that you will go and then you start covering it. You get but you need to invest on those sources, right? So you need to meet those people on a weekly or monthly basis, and then it's up to you how you connect with those people, and it's up to you how your sources are able to get information from. You're able to get information from your sources. So it's completely up to you, which you will learn over a period of time. The first question was how the faster one reaches. I don't think so, because you reach faster, but you stay longer. That's fine. But if you reach faster just to break it fast, I mean, for visual media it may work, but it just doesn't work like that. You reach to a scene, but don't reach very late. But I'm just saying, even if you reach after 3 people reaching to the spot, you have your own bullshit detector. You have your own bullshit antenna, right? I mean, what's hidden, what is bullshit, and what is what's the story is. Once that is clear, I mean, even if you reach in the scene midway, I used to, or my friend, I knew a couple of friends who were excellent spot reporters. They used to reach like half an hour late to the spot, but they used to come out with great stories the next day, because they knew, what is this that people would like to read. They had this pulse. They had caught the pulse of the reader and all other people. So I don't think that the faster one reaches is very important. Yes, it works for the visual media, but that's how people start seeing it. But for print or online, faster is okay, but you need to wait and you need to confirm it through various sources, and then you want to run it, because just to break the story on time, you would not want your reputation to be on stake, right?
Manya Saxena has a question that follows the first question you answered. You said when MLAs or people in power are concealing facts.
Yeah.
So she's asking you the same question. How do we deal with it when we know that it's the people in power who are concealing the facts that you need to cover or to come up with an investigative case?
Situations you will deal with. It's not because the company and the newspaper that you're working with, they will back you up, and whatever I have said and whatever the stories I have done, it's not that it's my hard work alone. There's some total of things that works, right? There is this initial editor who guides you initially. These are the details he will tell. Then there's this the chief editor who will tell you, okay, boss, we need to get this detail. Then there's the inside of you that's working. Once you write it down, there's another person who is saying, boss, we need these many more details. Then there's person who just polishes your story, and then there's this designer who puts on your page. So there's this great team. So when you say situation is all team, and the lawyer in the organization will back you up, that's not a problem. But you need to paint those people. You need to nail the system in such a way that you don't that there is no loophole. So that's what I said. When you do a story, or when you talk, or when you write a story, even if it's a 400-word story, you're covering a crime beat, you're covering a court beat, you're covering a health beat, you are writing a 400-word stories. Just think about it. In those 400-word stories, what are the more details that you need to know? Write it down. Okay, I need to talk to this, I need to see this, I need to explore this angle. You talk to them then, there, now. So you add 100 more words. This is a regular process. when you do this throughout like your career, what will happen is eventually you will be so much trained in your mind, and the grind, your self grind will be so much that when you do a big story where involving big people, then you have every facts for every angles on table. But that's a long process that you need to follow. So when you're talking about, and you need to be careful also, because it's also a reputation of your organization that is at stake. So when there are big position of power that's concealing the facts, A, do it very discreetly. You don't want to tell everyone what you're doing, and make sure that you get every angles covered, so that tomorrow nobody can pinpoint to, let's say, Indian Express कि boss इसमें तो problem है ये story में, इसमें तो ये नहीं है, इसमें तो ये नहीं. No, you need to be your own editor first. You are a reporter and you are an editor first. So if you are a reporter, you have written, then as an editor you ask those questions to yourself कि क्या problem, क्या missing pieces है इन सब stories में. If you follow that grind, I think there will be I'm assuming that there shouldn't be any problem.
Thank you, Abhishek. Do you think we have a little more time to take about 2 questions?
I don't mind. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So Pallavi and Ananya have both asked questions, and I think we can connect both of them. Pallavi is asking, what is the one big hindrance to investigative journalism and investigative journalists? And I think we can connect that to what Ananya said, where she says a lot of stories get lost and don't get the attention that they deserve. So how do we make it more impactful?
I will answer Ananya first. So you very this is very I think a very important question. So when I told you about the Noida gang rape story, so this was essentially what I was pointing you everyone towards. Okay, how do you make story impactful? A, attention it deserves. B, and that catches right attention. A and B. So you need to also be able to comprehend that how to tell this story, because ultimately you are a storyteller. So there are 2 kinds of stories, right? One where there's a real great content in it, and one where it is greatly written. You know, when you just read that piece, you know, okay, it's a normal story, but it's so well written that you like the story. And there's another kind of story where it's an okay piece. It's a very straight language. It's been written, but there is great deal of information. So you need to know what, as they say, you know, you need to know to sell your story, because that's, I think, the core of it, and the way to storytell it, because that's very important. So nowadays you see when you go to New York Times website or the New York Times magazine, NY Mag, and you see there are a lot of storytelling methods. There's this entire magazine where where there's a picture, there are videos, and that will come along with how you do. And there was a great series. I remember one series in Netflix, which was an interactive series where you could, as a user, as an audience, you could decide.
Bandersnatch, right?
Yes, Bandersnatch. Yes. Where as a user, you could you could decide how you want the story and how the story proceeds from there. So I think that's one. So you need to constantly think about, if it's print, if there is data journalism, then there is investigative stories. Then there is so in one of the I don't know if it's LA Times or Boston Globe. I just read it somewhere where there's the sounds of places where they had gone. So I'm saying if you're a multimedia journalist, so that's one way to do the story. So the issue will be same. There will be corruption. There will be rape. There will be there's some crime. Does this happen in court? Sometimes the issue will be important, but the majority of the time is the same thing happening over and over again. But you need to find out how to tell that story differently, and that is a result and sum total of what you read, what you how you are trained, how you are writing any story. And the initial years of journalism is very important, very important. That how it's very important that you get trained in the right place, so that your ethics, your systems, your cognitive functionalities are in right place, in terms of what do I seek out of when I'm doing a journalism. B, when you do join a right an organization, so don't be shy. Okay, there are two kinds of people. One who wants to write because they want to write and they like journalism. There are other kind of people who wants to do who aim for some change while doing journalism. So don't be shy to harbor any kind of quality. Okay, I like this job, but it's not my job to see change. That's fine. There's another kind of people who say, no, I want to harbor some change. I want to bring some change through my story. But remember, do not become an activist by doing all these things. You are a journalist, get your facts right. And there is a line between journalism and activism, stick to those lines. And when you do that and you know how to tell a story differently, it will receive the attention that it deserves. And initial question was about, from Pallavi ki, one big challenge, what hinders your beat? So the beat is, there are several beats, investigative journalism as of now is not my beat. I try to do whatever extra value added information that I can bring in any beat possible. Only when you do, I think you have this process in your mind will be that you are able to get over and then you do great investigative journalism stories. So what is investigative journalism? So please don't make any hawa out of this. Anything that you do which have required your certain kind of, which is not there, okay, and which is hidden in plain sight, which people is not there in, and you have unearthed those things. So it can be anything, right? It can be related to a municipal corporation doing some water thefts or diverting those water to a locality. It may not be a very national story, but that's a great investigative story for local readers. So investigative story can be anything. I mean, you going and just following a sex worker and just to show how travails of her life and what all things that she goes through, I think, and you find it and you investigate, as in you go and talk to her and talk to a lot of people with the normal people, like layman people, not normal, but layman would not do. So investigative can be anything. I mean, there is nothing so big about it.
Thank you, Abhishek.
Yeah.
The last question we have is from Anirban.
Yeah.
But it follows the other question from Manya that you'd already answered.
Yeah.
So he's asking, how do you think investigative journalists need to take care of themselves when they're covering stories that might turn out to be dangerous? Like what Manya said, if powerful people are covering up facts. So what are the things that a journalist personally needs to do in order to keep themselves secure?
See, one is, I think, in Jharkhand only, I have written against the government. And today only there was a front page story in Indian Express where I have written about a woman who used to sell liquor and then they have shifted to business. It's a good story about the government, what they're doing. So how do you safeguard yourself is one, you cannot be inclined towards one source, one party, one person. You have to be dispassionately telling the story. Once you do that, people in power, people who are political parties, people in power, who are not in power, will see you as a person who wants to just do their job. That's when you're talking about policy and about one particular benefits that's not reaching the poor. But when you're targeting a person, you be sure that you don't have any conflict of interest with that organization or person or anything. So that's one way to do that. Second is, there is no way to safeguard yourself when you are targeting an institution or a person. The only way to do is do your job right. I mean, there will be threats, of course. But when you do your job right, and if you give a fair representation to people whom you are targeting, first of all, it should be of public concern, whatever you are targeting him or her for. or therefore it has to be of public interest. The second, it should be of uh, you shouldn't just matlab, it shouldn't be a sleazy piece of journalism. Matlab, you're just doing for the heck of it. Matlab, to just sensationalize your work. And the next is, if you do something, I mean, most of the time you're guarded, but yes, there is no safeguard. I mean, you do a story about the mafias of the water mafias of Bangalore. I still dread the matlab, if anyone doing that story in Bangalore, and if they pinpoint list 10 names out there, these are the people who are doing it through bank trail and bank hit. This is a very scary situation. But if you do your work right, and if you have facts right, and if you're not targeted at only one person, I think you are guarded most of the times. But yes, there are certain threat that comes with it. So देखना पड़ेगा क्या होगा.
Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you for
Thank you so
highlighting the need for an investigative journalist to channel curiosity, and
yeah,
for telling us that the person, an investigative journalist, is basically the person who connects the dots and
yeah,
follows wherever they lead you.
yes,
And how important, how much of an importance an investigative journalist has when they also have the potential to influence legislative policies. So
yeah,
thank you very much. Rest assured, IIJNM students will keep asking, so what? Uh, Also,
yeah.
thank you. So for the
Thank,
next webinar, thank you, Abhishek. This is
thanks.
for the participants. In the next webinar, which will be held on 30th June, we'll be meeting Priyanjali Ghosh, who is a senior copy editor at the Economic Times. She will be talking about producing editions during a pandemic. You will be sent an invite shortly, and I will see you then. Thank you for attending this session.